All right, so we've been getting some comments on our videos lately, specifically a comment about where we instruct people on how to do a back squat regarding what the knee should be doing. So I want to address that in this video and kind of address the issue of what your knees are doing in a squat and if they should translate forward towards the toes and even out over the toes a little bit. So this debate kind of starts way back where there was a study that showed that there's an increase in knee tension or pressure, I guess you could say. This study's like 1961 when the knee translates forward in a squat, okay? And that's true to some sense. Like if your knee translates forward a little bit, there's a little bit more increased pressure in the knee. So from that study, people basically took it way too far and are like, you should never have your knees go over your toes at all, right? But the problem with that is if you're loading a squat, meaning like typically a back squat, if you don't put your knees over toes, and I'll demonstrate this in just a second, you're actually putting way more force into your low back and your hips, which you don't want to do, specifically the low back, okay? So, practically speaking, right, this is how I think of this. If you are someone who you're like, hey, I have some achy knees, I don't like it and I don't want to feel that at all, and you're doing just some air squats, let's say, then sure, just keep your shin vertical and just sit back like this. You won't feel anything in your knees at all, right? You're just sort of this sort of motion like this. Even if you're doing a little bit of weight up front, you could probably do that, okay? And you'll be fine. But if you try to do that, if you try to do that when you're doing a back squat, you're gonna ruin your back, or you're gonna put way more pressure on your back. Okay, so watch this. If I am, let's say, I believe this statement that you shouldn't have your knees go forward, and I'm doing a weighted back squat, and so I'm trying to keep that vertical shin and keep this thing, like I can go down to about this far, and even there I'm starting to do it already, where at some point my back, I'm having to go like this just to keep balance, right? So you can see if I'm gonna keep that vertical shin all the way down to the bottom of the squat, look at the position of my back. That's not the position your back should be in with a back squat. So you have to keep your body more vertical in order not to hurt your back, and so you have to basically do this, right? Which is pushing the knees forward and out and over the toes a little bit, okay? That's the proper position for your knees to be in. Is there a little bit of increased pressure in the knees? Yeah, a little bit, but not to the point where it actually injures the knees. And that little bit of pressure is okay, especially since we're not putting all the pressure onto our back and we're actually working our quads, our hips, our glutes, and things like that, which we need to do when we're doing a back squat. Anyway, so that's kind of my theory on this in a sense, right? Like you can put your knees forward, you have to put your knees forward actually if you're actually doing a weighted squat. If you're like, I want to not do that and you're just doing some air squats, then sure, go ahead and just do some air squats and keep your knees, your shins vertical. But if you're weighting your squats, you have to put your knees forward. So that's the way you need to be doing it. So hopefully that answers some questions that some people had about why we taught the squat that way. If you have any additional comments, go ahead and put them in there and we'll hopefully get some time to answer them when we can. So thanks for watching.